Hello, my name is Jared Campbell with Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation, loan officer in the state of Florida. Here with my good friend David Deacon, my insurance carrier partner. I'm here to discuss the differences in insurance and how you can save. How you doing today, David?
Good. Hey, Jared. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. So give me a little information about your background, and then we can discuss some questions in regards to insurance.
You got it. So I'm real quick. I'm not originally from Florida. We moved out here about 4 or 5 years ago. I've been in the insurance business for 14 years. Believe it or not, I'm fourth generation insurance. My great grandpa started an agency. Grandpa took it. My dad went a different route, and I needed to spread my wings and get out of that umbrella. So my wife and I went around the country to find opportunities to relaunch our life. And the whole rest of the nation's intimidated by Florida insurance because it can be kind of complicated. But I looked at it as a challenge, and two, an opportunity, and to separate myself. So we moved out here 4 or 5 years ago and have never looked back. We love it. So I've been doing this a while.
Outstanding. So a lot of people don't realize how important the cost of insurance. It could be the difference between the deal working or not working. So if you are working with a loan officer that doesn't estimate the correct amount at the beginning and the quotes come in significantly higher, that could be the difference between you getting a loan or not. So I just wanted to dive into a few questions. What are the different types of insurance that are out there in policies?
Got it. So one of the main things that I talk to people about with insurance, first and foremost, is the use of the property itself. You could have a condo that's a seasonal use or a full-time, a single-family home that's a secondary property or full-time. And then you get into multifamily, 2 units, 3 units. What is it used for? Oh, and beyond, right? In unit size. What is it used for? Is it short-term rental or a long-term tenant? Because every one of those questions in regards to use determines product availability and product direction. And within that spectrum, me being a broker, we have multiple opportunities to go out and find products depending on what the product or the property is used for. So a thorough conversation to find out what it's used for. Then I can go out as a broker with 50 insurance companies and more to find out what we can do for them.
Excellent. And as you discuss a condo, a single family home, a townhouse, usually what types of insurance are required for those?
Got it. So let's just think a single family home, more insurance, more expensive. Condo, a little bit smaller, less expensive, but I'll break it down a little bit more. So here's what happens on a single family home. You have a house, the lender and the client, they want to make sure their investment is secure and insured due to fires or hurricanes. Those are the common ones we talk about. So a single family home, an HO3, will cover the outside structure, also known as the dwelling, and then the stuff with inside the house, the stuff that someone would move in, TVs, your couches, your clothes. It would cover the dwelling and the stuff inside. And then there's a lot of other coverages, liability, and some different things that we talk about. Now moving over to the condo, let's say you're in a high-rise building with 100 units. That big building carries a massive insurance policy on the outside. You have to do that on a single family home, but on the outside, on a condo, it's covered by the condo association. So let's say the unit that you're looking to buy is unit 1150. What's your worry and what do you need to cover? You need to cover the walls in of your unit. So let's say you have a fire. You want to make sure your kitchen and your bathroom are going to be able to be replaced as they were. And then also, you have home furnishings. You want to make sure those are covered too. So the difference is the home, you got to cover the whole thing. The condo, it's more specific to your unit and the specific needs of that unit within itself.
Excellent. So just so everybody out there is aware, an HO3 policy is primarily for your single family homes. It's going to carry your exterior and interior, and your HO6 policy is mainly for your interior, and that is going to be based off of condos. When do you need flood insurance? Because obviously, Florida, we're at sea level and flood insurance is extremely important, but doesn't always have to be placed on every single home or property out there.
Exactly. So flood insurance basically is reviewed and governed by FEMA. FEMA is a government endorsed agency. And so what they do, let's imagine we're sitting on Google Earth, right? And we zoom in on a neighborhood. Every one of the lots in that neighborhood, FEMA has said, hey, does water flow towards that more than the other one? So basically they look at every lot and they give it a letter grade. X zones are actually the safe ones. If you're in an X zone, it says, hey, you're less likely to have flood going your way. So the lenders would say, hey, since you're in X, you're lower risk, we're not going to make you have a flood insurance policy on that house. You can still get it optional if you want outside of it, but we're not going to make you. But if in the event that your zone through FEMA comes back in an A, and there's a bunch of variations or some different zones that they require, if they said, hey, you're a little bit higher risk, then the lender will require you to have flood insurance, and there's a process to get proper rates for that quote. And so every lot's different, every measurement's different, and so there's a process to get exact rates for your flood policy. We can determine, or I can determine, if your zone or your lot is in a flood zone in 5 minutes. Very, very simple. 5 minutes less, I can figure out what flood zone you're in. So if FEMA says yes, then the lenders require it. If they say no, and you're in an X zone, or if you're in a safe zone, then it's optional for you. You don't have to have it with your loan.
Now, if I'm a borrower or a real estate agent and I'm trying to help out myself or my borrower, how can I find out myself if I'm in a flood zone or the property I'm looking for is in a flood zone?
Call me. All I need is an address and a name. I'll pull the flood zone determination off FEMA's site in less than 5 minutes. Quick.
Okay, outstanding. And just so everybody is aware, adding flood insurance could be a premium of $2,000 to $3,000 a year, depending on the property size. So that is broken down into 12 monthly payments, and that is added to your monthly debt. So that could be the difference between you buying a home and not buying a home. So just be very certain that you are considering the flood insurance and looking into it beforehand before putting an offer in on a property.
Yes, and I will say too, in part of the inspection process with purchasing a home, we'll get into the wind mitt and 4-point in a little bit, but a lot of times the elevation certificate, if that home, you want to do this early, if that home is in a flood zone, you want to order the elevation certificate because there's a handful of measurements, let's call it a half a dozen, that basically we get those measurements on the elevation certificate, and that's how the rates are generated through FEMA. So the earlier the better. Once you know that flood zone, and it is, order that flood zone, order that elevation certificate quickly.
Outstanding. So, what changes the cost of insurance the most? Okay,
that's a loaded question. So I work with buyers, new homeowners often, and also experienced people. And that's the question I get the most. So here's the thing. Home insurance eligibility, first and foremost, which carrier will take you and why, is based on a handful of qualifiers. What year the house was built? Where is it located to coast? Is it in the wind pool? What county it's in? All of these are eligibility questions. What that means is which company will take you. Sometimes in some counties, there's not a lot of options due to certain kinds of homes. So then the big question is, if you don't have a lot of options, where can I save? So the state of Florida, they designed a program, an inspection program, 2 inspections, a 4-point, which goes over the electrical, the heating and air, the plumbing, the water heater, and so a little bit more about the roof. But where to save is generally the wind mitigation inspection. The wind mitigation, I take every client that I have, everyone, through the wind mitigation. Here's why. Because when they see premiums, they want to know why they're spending what they're spending it on. So I walk them through the very characteristics of the wind mitt. When the roof was put on, major factor. How it's held down. Stronger equals cheaper, weaker equals more expensive. We go through it. And then the other one is the doors, windows, and garage door discount, how it applies to that home. So let's say, you got me buying a home for the first time. and I don't have some of the discounts. What I do with every client is I say, here's how we got to this insurance carrier through the whole process. And then I give them a forecast of here's what the premium is today. And then I have the system live open with their WinMint and the carrier site. And I say, hey, if you did this, or if you did this, or if you did this, this is what it will be worth to you in dollars and cents. Here's the savings. I want you to have the right coverage, but pay the least amount. And I want you to also only put your money towards things that drive down costs in regards to insurance. And reviewing the WinMint speaks to them, me, and the insurance companies, and they'll be razor sharp where they can save.
That's awesome. Awesome information. Because I know I get a lot of individuals that reach out to me and they're like, wow, my premium's $6,000 or $5,000. And they're always asking me questions on what I can do to save. And I don't have those answers. And obviously I always direct them to you because you're far more knowledgeable, and vice versa. I mean, if someone has a loan question, you send them to me.
Exactly.
So it's important that you get with an agent, and especially someone that's knowledgeable and that is willing to have the patience to work with those buyers so they can understand what they can do in the future to save money if they don't have that current savings.
Well, and one more thing, one example, and then one more thought. An example, I've seen one door, he's 60% worth of the premium. One door, and that could be done in 2 hours. And so we've got a team of people that can help people out quickly. People need a strategy. Buyers need a strategy, because sometimes some of these numbers aren't fun. But then when they know how they can make this work long term, and we give them a plan, it helps the realtor, it helps the buyer, it helps the loan officer, it helps me, helps everyone believe that there's a plan out of this or make it better.
Excellent. Because like I mentioned earlier in the interview, it could be the difference between you buying a home and not buying a home. You know, a $4,000 or $5,000 difference on a premium literally could be the difference between the debt to income ratio working and not working. So those savings are extremely important. You know, working with an inspector that is knowledgeable and understanding and can give you the correct inspection report is also very important. I know, like a perfect example, and not to dive in it too deeply, but where I live is a townhouse community. My neighbor that lives in the same complex got quoted $8,000 or something crazy number. And I know you were able to get him a discount and actually get his rate significantly lower. And we live in the same complex. The roof is on the same thing, but the inspector he had wasn't knowledgeable and didn't do his due diligence, which cost him money in the long run. So a good inspector and a good insurance agent is extremely important. And then obviously, I mean, I know you're licensed in the state of Florida. I'm licensed in the state of Florida. You know, we're both located in Broward County, Fort Lauderdale area. So we're a lot more knowledgeable in this area with the premiums. But that being said, the rest of the state of Florida, does premiums fluctuate significantly throughout the state of Florida, or does it primarily stay the same?
Premiums do fluctuate significantly. The 4 main counties in this state that are burly when it comes to the cost of insurance: Monroe, Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach. Basically, as you start getting out of those counties, if that's where your market is, you can substantially cut the cost of insurance. But these 4 counties down here are frontline hurricane. We're the kind of the wall of hurricane. Arguably some of the most expensive property premiums in the world. They're tough, right? So you have to have a solid broker. But as you get north, it gets extremely affordable. I mean, we're talking, when I send quotes over to other to you, Jared, I know we've worked on policies in Orlando. When I've sent you stuff, you call me up. Is this real? Right? It's 80% different. It's drastically different. So the whole state by county is different.
Right. And then obviously we had a huge hurricane in 92. You know, Hurricane Andrew came and impacted things and changed the code. So I remember having a conversation with you that homes built after 1992 primarily will have a better chance of getting a little lower rate, or is it mainly the structure of the building itself, regardless of when it was built?
So a few things, right? So there's 2 main codes, 94 and 2002. That we measure on the WinMint. And then it starts getting into the nitty gritty. What counties give you certain years or whatnot. But I will say this, insurance really starts top down. roofs really matter. Doors and windows really matter. How your roof is held down really matter. If you have a new roof, there's big possibilities to save. If you improve the doors, windows, sometimes garage work, depending on the county, there's room to save. But as far as code concerned, newer's always better. Newer's always better.
Outstanding. Outstanding. So that kind of summarizes, the questions that I had for this interview. I don't know if you have any additional thoughts or information you wanted to share, but I learned a lot today. Obviously I don't really deal with the insurance other than the cost of it and plugging it into my system to identify if they qualify for the mortgage or not. But I get tons of questions every day on insurance. So, the things I want to mention, and just to finalize this interview, is it's extremely important that you work with a knowledgeable insurance agent and a knowledgeable loan officer to make sure they can identify a good guesstimate of what that policy will be, so they can plug that information in before you start the search process, so they make sure you can qualify for a home with a $400 or $500 a month insurance policy payment if it comes to that, or a little bit less depending on the purchase price. So, I truly appreciate your time, David. This was extremely beneficial. And I know a lot of people that are going to watch this video are going to reach out to you and try to get some more, information from you, and hopefully utilize you as their agent.
Deb, I appreciate it. One last thought, and I appreciate the chance, Jared, I really do. Every property is different. Every property is different. And so it needs, every wind mid, every 4-point needs special attention. And I walk through each and every one with every buyer, every client, because that's their home. Let's make sure it's specified to them.
Outstanding. Well, thank you very much, David. I'm Jared Campbell, Loans by Campbell. And this is David Deacon with Brightway. And I'll add his information. So if anybody wants to reach out to him, you're more than welcome to. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.